Derek's first days as a baby were peaceful, but far from boring. He had no responsibilities. All he had to do was eat, sleep, poop, and do the occasional baby noise or finger-grabbing routine. That gave him all the time he needed to think about his future. On Earth, it was a fact that kids had greater learning potential than adults. His new family appeared human, or at least human-like, so he hoped this was all true in this new dimension. As far as he could tell, his body was no different than that of a baby from Earth. He could hear his heartbeat and see his chest moving with each breath he took. Even his genitals were exactly as he remembered them. His new family was perfectly human. If it wasn't for the existence of magic, he would have thought he had only traveled through time. But things weren't that simple. He decided to forget questions like what race he was now and other stuff like that. He didn't need to overthink things. One of the advantages of being a baby was that being ignorant was perfectly fine. Someone would teach him the way everything worked in due time. He focused on two priorities. Number one, learning the new language. All babies were supposed to learn their native language, and he had a limited time frame before people would worry that there was something wrong with him. He could not rest on his laurels. Priority number two was to somehow learn and figure out magic, or at least its foundations. He also had a deadline there since his learning potential would be at its peak during his growing years. After that, he would be no different from anyone else. Learning magic became his first priority. Being considered a slow learner was better than being forced to take another spin at reincarnation. Derek spent his first day in the new world alone in bed with his mother. His father slept in the boys' bedroom. He paid close attention whenever someone talked to him, trying to figure out common words or patterns. The rest of the time, unless he was eating or his cloth diaper was being changed, he tried to cast the three spells he knew: Ekitu, Venire Lactu, and Venire Ratu. Every attempt failed. He could not feel even an iota of power inside himself. From his days spent playing tabletop RPGs on Earth, he knew a little about magic. He knew words were a part of it. But there had been something more, or at least he'd hoped so. Otherwise, all of his efforts would be futile until he could learn to speak. With each passing failure, his anxiety grew stronger. Fear of the unknown and what that might bring started to build up. Also, getting used to pooping and wetting himself was no picnic either. Fortunately, his mother showered him with nothing but love and affection, making his day a little better. Despite his bias towards mothers due to his previous experience, Elena managed to make him feel safe and protected. It was a nice change of pace from his previous life. The final tally in his first day was 0 progress in magic and in learning the language. On the other hand, his mother seemed to be a good parent, and he at least learned his new name, Lith. The second day turned his world upside down. Elena, showing the strength of a wild ox, decided she was sick of resting and got up to help with the daily chores. Lith could finally see her in her entirety. Despite having given birth the previous day, she had a youthful and energetic look, typical of someone in her early 20s. Her body was strong, honed through years of hard work. Her long hair was a beautiful light brown tone, with shades of red all over it. The candlelight made it look like flames were dancing within her hair. Seeing her outside on a sunny day must be quite a sight, Lith thought. Maybe because he was still a baby, or because of the mother-son bond, Lith couldn't help but feel proud of her. He also discovered she dressed in simple clothes. Once she finished dressing, Elena wrapped Lith up, making it impossible for him to move. She placed him into her sash, using it like a baby cradle so she could easily hold him with one arm and minimum exertion. She walked out of the small bedroom and found her older daughter, Rena, messing with the fireplace. Elena went to her and spoke to her in a hiss, trying not to wake up the house. Lith couldn't understand what they were saying, but he could infer that Elena didn't want Rena anywhere near the fireplace. Still, Elena didn't seem mad. She smiled and ruffled Rena's hair. All was well, apparently. Elena shooed Rena away from the fireplace, and with a flick of her finger lit the firewood. "Infero!" Lith rejoiced. "Thank heavens," he thought. I got that weird feeling that comes when I discover a new type of magic. This proves I wasn't imagining it." Elena said something to Rena, who went and opened the shutters to let in the light. Elena prepared breakfast. Elena took several vegetables out of a cabinet and chopped them with a knife. Some looked familiar to Lith, like potatoes and odd-colored carrots, but many looked completely foreign. The idea of that type of breakfast made Lith choke up. In his past life, he'd never liked vegetables because he thought they were bland and unsavory. No matter how many he ate, he would be hungry again in half an hour. Elena shoved everything inside a small copper cauldron. She then hooked the cauldron and hung it on a metal bar over the fire. After that, she conjured water out of nowhere with a snap of her fingers and filled the cauldron. Both Lith and Rena were ecstatic, but for completely different reasons. For Lith, it meant hope. Spells could be cast without words or precise hand movements. That was proof that he had a real chance of practicing magic while still a baby. For Rena, it was a reason for pride. Magic was common, but every time Elena cast a spell, it was like watching a real mage at work. Rena said something to Elena with eyes full of admiration. Lith inferred she wanted to do magic just like her mom when she grew older. Elena replied to her with a kind smile and perceptive eyes, as if she knew that doing magic also required hard work. After a while, everyone woke up and they had breakfast together. The family consisted of Raz, the father, Elena, their 2 daughters, Rena and Tista, and 2 sons, Orpal and Trion. Rena, alongside her twin brother Orpal, was the eldest child. She was 6 years old and had blonde hair with shades of black. Lith was relieved that he didn't have to eat the vegetables since he was still nursing. While everyone ate, he took a look at his new house. From what he could see, it consisted of a big room, currently in use as a dining room, a kitchen with a pantry, and 3 doors that led to 3 bedrooms. Nothing else. A depressing thought occurred to him. There was no indoor bathroom. Breakfast was relatively quiet, so he had no problems learning the magic word for water when his father filled some jugs. Joran. After everyone finished and left for their daily routines, Elena took Lith and sat on a rocking chair. All morning, he discovered with great pleasure that in this new world, daily chores like washing dishes and cleaning floors were all performed using magic. From her rocking chair, Elena simply twirled her index and middle finger while reciting Presa, which produced up to 3 small whirlwinds that she moved all around the house to collect and get rid of dust. Whenever someone soiled the floor with dirt or mud, a flick of the wrist and the word Magna would send it back through the same door it came from. Lith was delighted to discover how common the use of magic was. Everyone in the family, including the younger ones, used magic to make their lives easier. When bedtime arrived, Lith was eager to try some magic. He was relieved when Elena finally unwrapped him. He had waited all day for his hands and feet to be finally free. Elena fell asleep almost instantly, yet Lith was too anxious and impatient to rest. After a full day of thinking, he decided to try only air magic, at least until he was confident enough in his ability to control it. Fire was too dangerous for a beginner, while water and light would easily wake up his mother. Lith could not spot any dirt to control in the dim light of the room, and he was too afraid to mess with dark magic until he got a better understanding of it. So, he twirled his little arm and said, "Iya." Nothing happened. After countless failed attempts, Lith decided to give up. He didn't know how long his baby body would last before falling asleep, so instead of despairing, he started thinking. Magic was common in this world. Whenever he heard an elemental magic word for the first time, something would click inside him, as if creating a connection between him and the elemental energy. Those were all good news, but he still couldn't make heads or tails about why he kept failing. He never expected to succeed on the first try, but he had hoped that something would have manifested at this point. A tiny gust of wind, a spark of light, anything would do. He thought back to when the midwife had filled him with power. That feeling was not new to him, but he had never experienced it so intensely. Lith searched his memory until he found the answer. It was the same sensation that he had felt when he'd started practicing Aikido and learning basic breathing techniques in his previous life. Well, I have nothing to lose. Let's give it a try, he thought. Lith breathed in through his diaphragm, while relaxing his body to draw world energy in. Then, he held his breath for a few seconds to let the energy settle before breathing out and relaxing. Back on Earth, he'd always thought that the intoxicating feeling he experienced during his first days of practice was just some kind of placebo effect. He'd believed he was deluding himself into thinking that the weak could miraculously become strong just by directing internal energy. But perhaps that hadn't worked because Earth's energy was too thin and fragile. Maybe this world was different. After some time, Lith felt a tingle all around his body. Then the energy seemed to move and condense inside his solar plexus. The more he performed the breathing technique, the clearer he could sense the energy stabilizing around him. In his old video games, the energy levels were always blue, so he visualized a blue sphere settling inside him. After a while, Lith felt like he was brimming with power. He held his breath one last time and twirled his little arm before commanding, "Iya!" He had aimed for the blanket, but the wind he produced went to his mother's hair, barely moving it. Still, he couldn't stop smiling. This is a great start, he thought.